Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. I am just so excited because this is officially the 1 year anniversary of the very first episode coming out. And I honestly, I don't know. I don't really have anything to say about that, but I'm just so excited that we got here and that I have all you lovely listeners who continue to support the show. But yeah, it's Barely Bookish is 1 year old today. It's a little birthday. It's yeah. I'm just really excited. I know that like maybe I should just have like a little party or something to like commemorate it. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm just I don't know. It's crazy to think that I've been doing this for a full year already, and I'm just so happy for everyone that's hung out and stuck with me and taking the time to listen to this podcast and find something else, you enjoy. But today we're going to be continuing to talk about the Odyssey with Jade. I'm sure you guys are, I really hope you guys are liking it as much as I am, and I really can't wait to talk about it more. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the Odyssey once again with Jade from About a Book podcast.
Hi, everyone.
I am very excited to get back into the Odyssey. We finally get more of our boy Odysseus. We get some more trials and tribulations, and we finally get to hear his entire backstory of everything that happened while, we star swiped over post Trojan War. We get to finally see what actually happened in the Trojan War, which was not discussed in the Iliad. Shocking.
No, yeah, these books are I think these are some of my favorite in the whole book because, yeah, it bridges that gap from like where the Iliad leaves off to like now and like all the little places he went. And it also features the Cyclops, which is like one of my favorite parts of the book. So this should
Yeah.
be a good recording.
Yeah, I am excited because I like that it describes everything very much in detail. Where I feel like a lot of books, when they have their flashbacks, everything is like, I don't want to say like romanticized, but I feel like there's just not enough detail.
Hmm.
And they're just like, oh, yeah. And so, like, basically, had this been like a lot of other books, it would have just been, and then we all hid in a, wooden horse and raided the kingdom. Whereas this one's like, all of them gathered into this wooden horse. Athena herself had guided them, and it's like all these details that we
Yeah.
wanted.
Like sometimes flashbacks are just used like as an author to add in little bits of information that like they
Mhm.
forgot to tell you or they didn't tell you yet. Whereas this, it's actually like seems like a good storytelling technique, if you get me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I do like it where it's like at the end of it, it'll just be like Odysseus said to the gathering party. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of funny to me. Where it's like they also use um the bard or like poets to describe a
Yeah.
lot of things too. Like we finally get filled in about Achilles' death and things like that. But we'll get to it when we get there. We'll talk about it more. But I just wanted to you know,
Yeah. Get you
tease that.
excited to listen to this.
Yeah, that lovely cold open, right? So we start with book 5, From the Goddess to the Storm. So all the gods are sitting down to chat. I just every time we get a god scene, I love it. Okay, I think that's the
Yeah.
most fun to me.
I just imagine them sitting up there with like their coffee, just kind of like gossiping, you know what I mean, when they're supposed to be working. In like a break room and work or something.
See, I imagine them in like a boardroom,
Yeah.
like,
That's
and
probably more
then
official.
I know. I think like, but it's like a cozy boardroom, like at one of those like tech startups. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it's like it's still a boardroom, but there's like weird beanbag chairs in the corner that
Yeah.
no one really sits in.
Yeah, like Google where there's like a slide down to the office and stuff.
Yeah, you just slide into the boardroom and you're like, "Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Hermes." You know, but they don't have bad coffee. They just have really good coffee to the point where it's like, how is our company affording this good of coffee?
Yeah.
Where are budget cuts coming from? So Athena's like takes the helm and she's like, "Hey guys, I'm really nervous that Odysseus is still stuck with Calypso." And then we get Athena summarizing everything that's gone on to Zeus, and it's like, hey, just so you know, all the suitors are plotting to kill Telemachus. And Zeus is like, hey, just like make sure they don't. So simple. And then Zeus tells Hermes, and he's like, hey, go get Calypso. Tell her that she needs to free Odysseus. And then let him drift for 20 days before he comes. Then he can come home richer than he was before. I love the specification of 20 days specifically.
Yeah. Like Odysseus is just such I know like in these like books the humans are just pawns to the gods, but like
Mhm.
all the gods are just talking about like Odysseus, like this one guy. They have a whole universe full of people,
Mhm.
but they're just spending all their time on Odysseus. I love it.
My
It's so
favorite thing
petty.
is it's like basically this is like a TV show to them, and they're like, we need a filler episode, otherwise this season isn't going to be long enough. So what can we do? We need how about we have Odysseus just like
Drifting.
drifting for 20 days? Like that'll be a good filler episode. And they're like, man, Zeus, this is why you're the executive producer. This is a wonderful idea. So Calypso has an absolutely beautiful island. No wonder she got Odysseus to stay there for 7 years against his will. Because this island, beautiful, full of like lush plant life, some sort of beautiful tropical island. Like,
Mm.
go Calypso.
I always imagine Calypso to be like really hot and just kind of like,
Hmm.
you know, the girl that like has everything, but she just like can't get like a steady lover, you know? And she's like,
Hmm.
I have everything, like I'm beautiful, got this gorgeous island, like I'm
Hmm.
literally a goddess, and I
Yeah.
can't get somebody.
I imagine Calypso to just be one of those people that's like all of that, yes, and also has like a book of the month membership. You know what I mean? So like she always has something to do. She has like a beautiful Kindle that never seems to die, and is
Hmm.
somehow has Kindle Unlimited and the best bars in the entire like nation, okay, in the whole world. She has the best internet. We don't know how. And then like just doesn't ever find a man, but she's like the nicest soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and she just has all the hobbies. She's just, yeah, it just makes no sense. And then she
Yeah.
meets Odysseus, but then, as we know, he gets taken away from her.
I want to imagine that she just lives her best life all the time and she can do no wrong.
Yeah, I
Calypso
agree.
Stan.
Yeah, I agree. She's one of my favorites. I actually love pretty much all of the goddesses in this book.
Hmm.
Probably a bit biased, but yeah. Just
I
considering
know.
we had like such a lack of like good female characters in the Iliad. Yeah.
Hmm. I know. Like I love Cersei, and I know they're like, but like listeners can be like, but Rachel, she turned men into pigs, and I'd be like, but I mean, they did invade her island,
Exactly.
so. And as we have seen, these men keep trying to make their host give them gifts because apparently they think they deserve them. So, who is also inconsiderate? Pigs. I see no wrong. I really don't.
I agree. Justice for Cersei.
Yeah, truly. I can't wait to read Cersei.
I've
I'm going
read
to be
yet
doing that.
either.
You really?
No, yeah, I've read yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that for a Patreon episode, so I'm very excited. So, Hermes goes and tells Calypso she wants her to send he wants her to send Odysseus home, and she is not happy about this. She's like, you guys, all of the men in our lives get everything. Like literally, it goes full on. She's like, Zeus can steal people away. No one bats an eye. But the second Demeter stole someone away, Zeus came down and like rained like fire down on everybody. She's like, I steal one man, and you all get mad at me. She's like, you guys can do whatever you want, but as soon as a woman does it. And I was like, yes,
Yes.
yes, Calypso.
Like, I love this because I feel like this is like Homer. You know, maybe
Mhm,
this is a bit of a stretch. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I feel like this is like a little speech kind of like talking about like society at the time because, like,
mhm,
as we saw from like the Iliad and like the Troy movie, women just like the double standards, you know, and like the
mhm.
hypocrisy. So I feel like this is Homer like calling out everybody, or maybe it's just Calypso. Maybe he just wanted to make her seem argumentative. I don't know, but
I feel like too. I don't want to give Homer too much credit because he's a man, and like he wrote all of his male characters very much in the way he did.
yeah.
so I don't want to give him too much credit because I'm worried that like he wrote this whole scene to be like, isn't she silly for thinking women?
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about. But I think I love Calypso for this because I'm like, yes, Calypso, there is injustice even in the deities. So let's talk about it. Let's unpack this for a moment. Like, why can Zeus have like 1,800 mortal women at his beck and call, and then the second that like Hera even glances at someone, Zeus is like, let me just smite them down.
Yeah.
Let me just smite them down. Where's the fairness?
Non-existent, honestly. Justice
Mhm.
for Calypso.
Justice for Calypso. Like, they put her on an entire island completely by herself, and I was like, she'll be fine with that. There's see no problems. Like, Cersei and Calypso should bond together in a friendship because of the fact that they both got like stranded on islands with no other person to ever interact with. They can't seem to leave their islands. So like no wonder they would try and trap men.
Yeah,
Cuz like they themselves are trapped.
exactly. That's deep.
That's deep.
Have
Ugh.
you done the Aeneid?
Mm-mm.
That's like the third. It's kind of like almost like a Wattpad version of the Iliad.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another character in that. She's like the Queen of Thebes, and she's really cool, but she's kind of like Calypso in the fact that
Mm-hmm.
like, she has everything. She's like the best leader ever, best queen, but then she like can't get a man, and then she gets like Aeneas, and then yeah, he gets taken away from her and stuff. But she's a similar character to Calypso in my mind. So
Okay, so after all that, Calypso's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna send Odysseus home because I'm kind of tired of him crying all the time. Which, girl, same. Like, it makes sense. I get it. Like, if you're gonna take a lover to your bed, you don't want the one that cries constantly about his wife.
it
Like,
kind
don't
of
cry about your exes.
it kind of reminds me of that episode of Friends. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like Rachel has like this guy, and he seems very like unemotional, and he like never
Mhm.
opens up. And then she gets him to open up, and he just like won't stop crying, and she like wants to dump him.
Yeah,
It's very
I
like this.
mean, I mean, I kind of feel for her. Like, I get it. Like, that would not be great if,
Yeah.
especially because basically in Calypso's mind, this is his ex, you know?
Yeah,
So it's like,
exactly.
imagine, it's like one of those, you always hear about your friends when they go on their first date and they're like, all he did the entire time was talk about his ex. Like, that's what I feel like Calypso's going through her mind right now.
And this is like 10 years after the Trojan War, so it's been like
Mhm.
10 years since he saw
Yeah.
her, and he's still talking about her. So from her
Yeah.
perspective, I'd be annoyed too.
Plus, like, with Calypso, she's literally talks about how she's like, you understand that one, I'm immortal, and two, I'm way prettier than your wife could ever be. Like, not to be like that
I'm
guy.
literally a goddess,
Yeah.
like.
And Odysseus is like, yeah, but I still want my wife. And Calypso is like, whatever. At this point, okay, I'm gonna send you home. And then another thing is, Odysseus is like, okay, cool, let me sleep with you one last time. Like, Odysseus is sleeping his way through Greece at this point.
I wonder if he's like he definitely has kids scattered all around, like.
Yeah, he has so many probably like demigod kids at this point. Like, Telemachus is gonna now be the weakling of his
There should
kids.
be a second book where Telemachus goes off in search of all of his siblings.
I would read it. If someone wants to do a modern day retelling of Telemachus, like finding all of his like demigod siblings, I will read it. It sounds great.
I'll work on it.
Amazing. Please put that in my Instagram. I need to read it. Even if you just like write it directly in a DM to me, that would be
Yes.
great. Thank you. I want weekly updates. Anyways, so after 4 days of working on a boat, Odysseus is finally like good to go, ready. He's like, we're gonna sail. This is gonna be great. So apparently, Odysseus set sail, and everyone failed to like let Poseidon in on the fact that they're gonna save Odysseus and get
Mhm.
him out of here. So Poseidon is like been at this party for like a month now, and then he looks out and he's like, "Oh, Odysseus is sailing home." No, and then decides to just destroy his raft.
Yeah.
on a whim.
Why not?
Because why not?
So little effort for him as the god of the sea.
Yeah, he's like, I put a poll up on Instagram today, and I was like, who
Yeah.
would you rather be mad at you, Zeus or Poseidon?
And I would
I
guess
am.
I'd say Poseidon, people said.
I'm. Yeah, I'd rather have Poseidon mad at me for sure.
Is that what the poll said?
No, like most people have voted at saying they'd rather Poseidon be mad at them
Hmm.
because I feel like with Zeus being mad at you, that seems like a lot more like bad things can happen to you.
Yeah, and I feel like since he is like the leader, he can
Hmm.
persuade the other gods to be against you as well.
Yeah. Plus, like, I'm gonna be honest. I breathe a lot more air than I end up swimming in a lot more, like a lot less water. So, I would rather the god of air not be too mad at me. That'd be great. Thank you, because I need that to survive.
For some reason, I always imagine Poseidon looking like Zac Efron.
Really,
Yeah. I think it's the muscles or something.
I always imagine him looking like King Triton from Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
That's in my head. That's what he always looks like. So when we had the Percy Jackson movie, and he looked like just like a normal Fisher dad. I was like,
I haven't seen the
weird.
Percy Jackson movie and I don't want to because it's going to ruin it
Yeah,
for me.
I wouldn't. I mean, I'm really excited for the Percy Jackson TV show
Yeah,
to come out, though. We'll be watching that.
me too.
Yeah, good. I'm excited for that. But like the Percy Jackson movie is not worth your time. But like the actor they had for Percy Jackson was really good. My
Yeah, I
problem
like
was,
him. Yeah, Logan
yeah,
Lerman.
it was weird though that they aged everybody up to being like where they were at the end of the series, which I was like, why? Why would we do that? Anyways, so, terrible storm. Our man Odysseus is suffering. And the goddess is like, hey, you need to, one of the sea goddesses comes up and is like, hey, you need to swim to shore because at this point, you're going to die if you try and stay on this raft. And Odysseus he's been burned quite a few times at this point, and he's like, you know what, I am not going to do that until this raft falls apart. And as soon as he thinks this, the raft falls apart, and he's like, okay, time to swim. I love the irony, or what is it? No, the comedic timing in
Yeah.
this novel. There's multiple times where he's like, what if I just don't do that? And then immediately, and they're like, here's the repercussions of your thoughts.
Yeah.
So Odysseus makes it to the island and then crawls under bushes to sleep, which apparently these are the biggest bushes to ever exist because they block off wind, sun, and everything else you could ever want. And they're the size of a full grown man.
Mm,
So good for him.
good landscaping.
Yeah, I don't know who tends these plants, but what fertilizer are you using? Send it my way. Let me know. So then we have book 6, A Princess and Her Laundry, which
Oh, I like
I
this
love
one.
this chapter title.
Yeah, this is a good chapter.
Yeah, these books are superior. Like I love these sections, like this section so far. So Athena goes and tells the princess of this island that she should do her laundry, which I love this. I love that, Athena is innovative. Okay. She's like, I'm not going to tell her to go just hang out on the water because, oh, keep in mind, Odysseus is naked. He is fully naked at this
Just
point.
sleeping in a bush like a hobo.
Hmm. Fully naked, packed with dirt, sleeping in a bush.
And then Athena just appears to the
Mhm.
princess of the island in a dream, disguised as one of her friends, and she's like, "Go down to the lake and wash your laundry with all your friends." So she agrees. I don't know why I shouldn't just appear as like Athena, because like if a god appeared to me in a dream and told me to do something, I'd more
Mhm.
likely do it than if like a friend in a dream told me, you know?
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, oh, that was a weird dream. You were in my dream last night. You told me to do my laundry. You know what I mean? But if it was
Yeah.
like a goddess, you'd be like,
It's weird to me that too that basically anytime someone has a dream of their friend, they have to be like, that might have been a god, so I should probably just do it. Like it seems like the gods like to hide in other people all the time and then like
yeah,
immediately reveal themselves.
yeah, like surprise, got you.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, would you believe that I am this such and such person?" Ah, just kidding. I got you that time. I
It's
love
almost
it.
like it's just for their own entertainment.
Yeah, honestly, headcanon. The entire reason they do this is because they are playing characters in a TV show,
Yeah.
basically. Like to them, this is reality TV, so they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna cosplay my favorite character today, and then go and interact with another character I like."
It's like
If
when
you
they
can,
have Love Island and they bring in like new characters halfway through just to like spice it up, you know?
hmm hmm I still haven't watched Love Island.
I don't watch it, but it's really big here.
Yeah, I remember seeing like I went to the advertising agency in London who is like in charge of Love Island
Hmm.
and like hyping the show, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's like it feels like it's the same level of like excitement for Love Island as like The Bachelor here."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because The Bachelor isn't shown here, but I imagine it's like the same type of hype because I'm
yeah,
always hearing about The Bachelor.
yeah. We finally got Love Island over here now. Like people actually watch it here because when I first went and toured, it was only in um Europe.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's like where in Europe watched it. I know it was in London and like England, but we didn't have it in the US at the time. And then like I think it was like 2 years ago that now they're like, Love Island and a island near you, basically.
Anyway, that was a very long side tangent. Oh yeah, I was just saying. So yeah,
Mhm,
Athena appears to her in a dream as her friend tells her to go to the lake and wash her laundry.
mhm. So she does. She loads up a whole cart. And also Athena specifically was like, hey, don't walk and do your laundry. Like walking is for poor people. Get a cart and have mules bring it because that'll be way better. And the princess is like, okay, heard, sounds good, and does it. So she goes and does like all her laundry
And she
with
brings her
all of her
friends too,
friends.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if
Well,
I
there's
yeah, sorry, continue.
oh, I was gonna say, like technically they're her slaves, which is just
Yeah.
kind of messed up. But it was the time. And I will say, while I don't like knowing there is slaves, I appreciate the fact that they didn't try and gloss over the fact that these are slaves. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I feel like with a lot of modern translations, they're just like, oh, don't look there. These were definitely her friends. Which
Yeah. In the Homer translation, like just I don't know who it was translated by, but just like the basic one, it just says they're friends, whereas this one it says it more implies that they're slaves. Yeah.
yeah. I kind of appreciate the fact of not shying away from the realities of the time and like trying to not sugarcoat it, even though
Yeah.
I don't love it. Like I don't like that that was a thing in our history, but I also don't want to hide that that was something that happened in our history.
Yeah. And I don't know if I imagined it, but was she like naked doing her laundry? Or did I just totally
I thought so. I did definitely 100% think
Yeah, I
so.
think she is.
Yeah. Because they said like doing their laundry and then they sun themselves on the shore. So I thought they were implying that everybody's naked.
Yeah.
Because then they say they took off their headscarves too.
Yeah, which is like something you'd only do if like you were at home or something. So
Yeah. So I think they were all in the nude. But yeah, they're playing ball and they accidentally wake up Odysseus. And so this man who is fully nude and a stranger and on an island where they don't get visitors just walks up and is like, hey,
to
can
the
I borrow clothes? Yeah,
to
to
the
the princess.
princess as well. And like, oh, I know that he's like a king as well, but she doesn't know
Mhm.
that. So
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't tell her his name, doesn't like really add anything. And he's just like walks up fully nude, like, hey, can I borrow clothes or and so the princess is like, okay, fine. Let me go and take a bath because you're smelly. And then I'll give you some of my brother's clothes because she took everybody's clothes to wash it. Which, honestly, good on the princess. Like, at least she didn't just do her own laundry. She did everybody's laundry. Like, that's nice of her.
yeah.
So takes him clothes and loads everything into the cart again. It's like, all right, let's go home and I'm gonna drop you off here. And then what you have to do very specifically is walk into the royal house and then go seek out my mother, not the king, my mother. which I love. Like, it kind of describes how the mother is very much the figurehead in this
Yeah,
society, which we haven't seen that up until this point. Like, it didn't seem like any of the queens in any of the kingdoms we had heard in the
true,
Iliad specifically or in this so far. Like, it didn't seem like their queens did anything. So I like that this queen is very much a take charge.
true, true.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure really if it. I can't remember if it came through in this translation, but when I read
Mhm.
before, it kind of implied that like the princess was like in love with Odysseus as well.
Yeah. It like said something in this one how she like if he didn't want to go home, she would love to
Yeah.
marry a guy like him. And I was like, okay.
She's like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be so cute. We can tell our grandkids that like we met when you were sleeping in a bush naked and I was like cleaning my laundry naked. Like it's so cute. Like come home, meet my mom and dad, like
Yeah.
stay."
The worst part is I'm imagining her like pretty young and he's
Mhm.
probably like 50 at this point. Like,
Yeah. I imagine her like 18 or younger probably.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So I'm like, you.
Yeah. But the Phoenicians are great. They're like known as like the kindest people in the book,
Hmm.
because they have really good Xenia, which is like the like gift giving custom there. So that's
Hmm.
why like he came like normally if someone came to you like naked and like looking all dirty and stuff, asking you for clothes, you'd probably be like, well, maybe I'm just mean, but I'd be a bit like freaked out, like no. But she's like, oh yeah, sure, like come to my palace and blah 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 blah. That's all because of like this virtue of Xenia that like the person you
Hmm.
help might be a god or something.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was some of my school notes coming out there. But
I
yeah,
love
that's
it.
just why she was so hospitable. So yeah,
Yeah,
and because she
I
probably
love it.
fancied him too.
That too. But I also think it's funny that like Athena was like, hey, let's make sure for sure she wants to help him and like makes him look more buff and prettier and like makes his hair look all nice. I love that so much. She's like, this way they're really gonna want to help him. They think he's hot. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Like, Athena, listen, help a girl out. I'm just kidding. So then we are on to book 7, A Magical Kingdom. Honestly, every island they describe is a place I want to go to. Like,
Honestly, yeah.
to be on an island away from people.
It's
Wonderful.
especially the island of the Lotus Eaters, which we'll talk about later, but that sounds really nice.
I was
Weed
honestly,
Island. That's how we were taught in school, that it was like a weed island. Anyway.
really,
Yeah.
that's funny. I love that. I was thinking about Cersei's island in which she tamed like everybody. Like she tamed all the wolves and lions of her island and now they just like act like dogs. I'm like that sounds wonderful,
Yeah,
Cersei.
it's a little petting zoo when you go there. Just forget about the fact that all the animals are actually like men and just, enjoy just a little trip to the zoo.
Honestly, it'd be like that, I guess. Like I can't wait to read Cersei because I want to know more about this man
Yeah.
animal island.
I'm really excited for that. That's actually on my list. My birthday's coming up in September, so I need to add that to my birthday list. And someone asks me, like, I
Yes.
don't know if that's like you, but if someone asks me what I want for my birthday, I just automatically like forget everything I ever desired. So I'm gonna start
I
taking notes
know.
of little things because I like, especially people like my dad. Like he would have no clue what to get me, so I want to
Mhm.
like help him out by giving him something. So yeah, I should remember that. But
Yeah, I have a whole Amazon list of books that I want so that I never forget. Because otherwise, it's like, as soon as someone's like, hey, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, ooh, I have no idea.
yeah,
So Athena disguises herself once again and takes Odysseus to the king's house. Like, I love Athena just constantly showing up in like Telemachus and Odysseus's lives and being like, oh yeah, I'm totally not the goddess, whatever. Anyways, let's just go to the exact place you need to be. Okay. Weird. Don't say a word though. Okay, thanks.
I feel like Athena is the type of mom that just like, that mom that just does everything for their kid, like completely
Mm-hmm.
babies them. That's her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because my favorite thing is like to make sure that he never gets spoken to. She's like, I'll just put a cloud of mist around him, and then he will have no problem getting through the entire island. This is a good idea, and I love it. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah,
Like total helicopter parent though.
yeah.
So Odysseus, goes into the royal house and then throws himself at the queen's foot. And everyone's shocked because remember, Athena completely clouded him. So this man basically appeared out of nowhere and
Yeah.
just threw himself at the queen's knee. And everyone's like, whoa, okay, hello. What are you doing? So everyone decides to help. And then, they have like this big little celebration. They're like, oh, this is great. You're here. Cool. Okay, yeah, totally will help. And then the queen like looks at his clothes and it's like, I made those. Like, how'd you even get that? Like, where's that from? So Odysseus like, okay, basically what happened is that, I met up with your daughter. I was fully in the nude. Don't worry about it. And then, she was really nice and gave me clothes. And they're like, oh, why didn't you, ride in with our daughter? Like, why did you just come? And he's like, oh, and he's trying not to like rat out the daughter. He's like, I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I was like, hey, could you please drop me off and I will just walk in on my own? And they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And like the fact that Odysseus is just straight up covering for the daughter at this point is my favorite because, like, had Odysseus written in, it would have been leaked that the daughter was in the nude and
Yeah.
Odysseus saw her. Like, it would have been this whole thing. And so he's basically fully covering for the daughter's,
Yeah.
whatever, the daughter's modesty, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Modesty.
I love that. Like, what a king.
Literally, what a king.
Mhm. And then so they make Odysseus this really nice porch bed, and I was like, can I, if there's absolutely none mosquitoes, I would love this idea. Like,
Yeah.
oh, sounds beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Like,
like where the crawdads sing as well. She's a porch bed as
mhm.
well. And that's like my first thought. I was like, the mosquitoes, the insects, like
Yeah. Plus, we have like a lot of like mosquitoes and flies here in Florida. Like, that would be gross. But if I could somehow, I guess like if they had like a screened in porch or something, that'd be nice.
yeah. But assume considering that he spent like 10 years in the war and then like
Mhm.
another 10 years on an island, I'm sure he doesn't mind some creepy crawlies.
Yeah, plus like at least they gave him a bed. Like it doesn't seem like because this island doesn't get any visitors, they wouldn't have like a guest room.
Mm.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, true.
Because I feel like most other palaces have guest rooms, but they specifically state that this island
Yeah.
has never really been visited. So it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So then we are on to book 8, The Song of a Poet. So Athena's going around just straight up hyping him up. And I think that's hilarious. She's like, this new guy is so cool. Like, we should all be him. That's great. And what a hype woman.
Gotta love her.
So I know, I love Athena so much. So they don't know Odysseus's name at all. But they have the bard singing about the Trojan War right now. And I was dying.
Yeah, I mean Odysseus, I think he like requests the bard to sing that song about the
Oh
Trojan
yeah, I
War.
think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh no,
then
the first one he just started singing about. The next one he requests him to sing if he knows anything about the Trojan horse,
yeah. Oh
right?
yeah, the Trojan
Yeah.
horse more specifically, yeah. And then he just starts crying.
Yeah. Poor Odysseus. Like, why is he recounting his own trauma to himself,
I
basically?
know.
It was really sad. So then, the way you cope with your trauma in the Odyssey is then they start playing games with like they wrestle and they do running. They basically do sports.
Yeah. Does him crying give away his identity?
They said that no one noticed except the king.
Okay.
So to the king, the king's like, oh, something's up here. This is weird. But like no one else noticed because I think
Hmm.
they were like too enraptured by the song, I guess.
Yeah.
So someone starts taunting Odysseus to compete, and Odysseus, our main man with absolutely no chill, gets like very angry and then throws a disc way further than anybody else has physically thrown a disc. It's like, I can beat you in every single sport. Just try me. Try and see what happens. And I'm like, whoa, Odysseus, relax, my man.
It's like, you know, the person, like, you're just playing like some game or whatever. It's chill, it's a friendly time, and that just that one person that's way too competitive and they just suck the fun out of it.
Very literally, that's why I won't play Monopoly anymore, because I have no chill with Monopoly. Like, I get way too angry, and I'm like, it's not fun for me. It's not fun for anybody that's playing. The game never ends, and then I'm a very sore loser specifically with Monopoly. So I'm like, I won't play it anymore. Like, I know that about myself. So like, yeah. I had one Odysseus moment, and since then I've banned myself from the game of Monopoly. Like, I think the only way I'll play Monopoly now is if I'm drinking, so I'm not nearly as angry if I lose.
Fair.
So that's my Odysseus origin story. So then they start like switching tactics, and they're like, all right, let's stop playing sports because obviously we've offended our guest. Let's woo him with dancing. So they have the singer, um, or the poet, I guess, start telling the story of Aphrodite cheating on Hephaestus with Ares, which I've heard this story before, in the Percy Jackson series. If you remember,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
all of our listeners, yeah, no, like, it's the same story when they're going through the tunnel of love and all that stuff. um they talk about Aphrodite cheating on Hephaestus. I think this is the most like well known,
Yeah.
that whatever. So they go through that whole story, which I just think the funniest thing is like imagining that everyone's dancing and this is the story they're talking about.
Not very fun.
Like, all I'm imagining is like a trap beat over, and they're like, it's like dun, 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 dun. And then like beats are playing, and then they're like over the song is them telling the story of this. I like to think about it. It's like, have you ever seen people talk about some of the songs that like um English speakers really like to listen to, and then they translate it and they're like, do you not know how messed up this song is? Like, it's
Yeah.
really bad.
Or like pumped up kicks, like it sounds so happy and stuff, and then it's about like a
Yes.
shooter. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking about too, is like, you kind of are like, oh, this is really good. I like this song. And then like you think about the lyrics and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So ultimately they start sending Odysseus on his way. They're gonna send him, well, they're about to start sending him on his way, but they're gonna send him with like a bunch of money. They're like, here, you can have this golden crested thing and this sword with diamonds in it. Here, take all of our money. Thank you. And then this is when Odysseus is like, hey, do you know the story about the Trojan horse? And the poet's like, yeah, I know the story about the Trojan horse, and starts telling the story. And then, Odysseus just starts bawling, and the king's like, all right, what's your name? What's your name? And then we're on to book 9.
Yeah.
So, a book 9, A Pirate in the Shepherd's Cave. So he finally is like, okay, fine, I'll tell you my name. My name's Odysseus. And everyone's like, what? So he tells, this is where we get all of his flashbacks. And like, our man has been through it. He
Yeah.
has been through it. So the first story he starts talking about is the story of the Cyclops. And they basically are like, yeah, so, but like, it all boils down to, he's like, we went to this island, and, you know, we see like this cave, and we're like, okay, we'll wait for this guy to come home. And everybody was like, hey, why don't we just like loot it? And he's like, no, if our host is good, he'll just like give us things and then we can go home on our way.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of guest just shows up expecting to get things?
Yeah, I know, it sounds crazy. I guess that was just the culture or whatever. And I guess like they must have been so hungry and tired at that point as
Mhm.
well from all the traveling. But basically they go into this cave that's full of like milk and cheese, because the whole island is basically just like cyclops people, well, cyclops giants and then sheep. So they go into this cave and the person isn't there, and Odysseus's men just like can't control themselves, and they start eating all the cheese and drinking all the milk, and then the cyclops comes home, and it's all fun and games, and then he just starts eating
Yeah. Starts eating
Odysseus's
the
men.
people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So then Odysseus has to like hatch a plan about how he's gonna like save the rest of his men.
Mm-hmm.
So they get the Cyclops really drunk, and we also find out that the Cyclops is called Polythemus, and he is um Poseidon's son. So this is kind of the backstory to why Poseidon hates him so much, because up until
Mm-hmm.
this point we didn't know why. But anyway, they get Polythemus, the Cyclops, really drunk, and then while he's like distracted, Odysseus gets a big like wooden kind of like spear, and he warms it by the fire so that it's really hot. And he and his men just like stab him in the eye so that he's like blind, and he's like shouting, and he's like ah. Um, and before this, actually, I forgot the most important part. When they're drinking, having a good time, he's like, "What's your name?" And Odysseus says that his name's Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, and this one says no man, which
yeah,
is
no
weird.
man. I still say Nobody though, because that's like
Mm-hmm.
the only way I've heard it. But he says Nobody. So then after he gets stabbed, he's like screaming for help, and he's like, "Nobody stabbed me! Nobody stabbed me!" So then obviously he gets no help, and then while
Yeah.
he's blinded, the Odysseus' men just kind of cling on to the sheep so that they're able to sneak out that way.
Mm-hmm.
While Polyphemus is blind. But yeah, that's the origin story of why Poseidon hates him so much for
Yeah.
blinding his son.
Yeah. Absolutely insane. And like honestly, I think this really shows Odysseus's intelligence, like this specific
Yeah.
scene, because not only did he think of the fact of like nobody stabbed me
Mm-hmm.
thing, but he also thought of um the sheep being under the sheep, because you know it's not like this farmer Cyclops is going to pick up every single one of his sheep and check. He's
Mm-hmm.
just going to make sure that a sheep walks by and not a person.
Yeah, and the whole reason why they blinded him and didn't just like straight up kill him was because he'd moved a big stone in front of the cave entrance, and
Mm-hmm.
Odysseus knew that the Cyclops was the only person that would have the strength to move the um the big stone. So then when he's blinded and he's calling for help, he like rolled the stone over and like left the cave, and that's how they were able to escape. But yeah, he
Yeah.
thought of all those factors, which shows that he's really intelligent. I feel bad though for Polyphemus, because Odysseus just rocks up with all his men, starts
Mm-hmm.
eating all of his cheese and all of his milk, which he's probably
Mm-hmm.
storing up for like, I don't know if Cyclops is like hibernate or something, but he's obviously
Yeah.
just, he had a stocked fridge and they just came in and ate everything. And
Yeah.
then, he's having a good time with them. Yeah, sure, he starts like eating the men, but like they ate his
Mm-hmm.
cheese and stuff. What else was he supposed to eat?
They fully broke into his home. They didn't
Yeah.
knock. They didn't like ask for entrance. He fully broke into his home. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
get it.
And then he didn't just stab him in the eye. He got like a hot spear and like stabbed him in the eye. So it must have been really
Hmm.
painful. So then he
Yeah.
calls out to his father in the sea, and that's
Hmm.
why he hates
Well,
Odysseus.
and Odysseus started like threatening him as they're
Mhm.
sailing away, like fully on a ship, and Odysseus is like taunting him. Like, no wonder that like Poseidon's extra angry and that the Cyclops is throwing rocks at you. Like, could you not just like wait?
Yeah, no, he gets really like full of himself that he managed to pull this trick off, and he just starts
Hmm.
bragging and like mocking Polyphemus. So yeah, I don't like Odysseus in this moment. I appreciate that he was smart, but I feel really bad for Polyphemus.
Yeah, I was like, Odysseus. This is like the one moment where I was like, you were good until that moment, and
Yeah,
then I was like, why? Like, there's no reason to do that.
yeah,
So then we are on to book 10, The Winds and the Witch. Like, I like that each book is basically a little story of what happened on his adventure.
yeah,
Like, I
and
think it's like a good flow.
yeah, and before he went to the Cyclops Island, he went to the island. He went to like a couple different islands, and one of them
Hmm.
was the island of the Lotus Eaters, which is like a land full of like giants, and that they just sit around and eat this like lotus leaf, like this kind of
Hmm.
like fruit, and it makes them forget all about their travels and just like makes them happy and like
Hmm.
carefree, and they enjoy it there, but then they move on. But yeah, in school they told us that was like a weed island.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah, and they're like, they basically had to like drag all the men onto the boat on the Lotus Island because
Yeah.
no one wanted to leave. They were having a good old time.
Yeah, he had to like tie his men to the boat and then they arrive at the Cyclops Island. But anyways,
Yeah.
carry on.
So Odysseus's men decide that while they're almost home, like they can see their island of Ithaca, they're like, you know what? Odysseus does not deserve all the riches he got from Troy. So, like, why don't we just steal from him while he's asleep? Because, Odysseus did not trust any of his men to steer them home. So he had done all of the steering the entire way and
Mhm.
was like, finally, like, in the final stretch, he's like, okay, I can see home. I'll just take a quick nap because, like, I'm starting to fall asleep. So then, they decide to start stealing from him. So a giant wind knocks them offshore and knocks them off course, I mean, and
Yeah.
they're no longer headed towards home.
Yeah, so basically, the god Aeolus is like the god of the wind. He gave him like a bag of wind that's supposed to like help steer him in the right direction. But then the men on his ship thinks it's like a bag of like gold, so they open the
Mhm.
bag, and then the wind comes up and just like goes crazy and blows them in the opposite direction. So it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I would be so mad if I was Odysseus. Like, they were almost there. So then they land at an island of giants, and more of his crew get eaten, and they immediately leave. And then they land at the island of Cersei. So they break into two groups. They're like, all right, first group of explorers. At this point, okay, also I want to talk about if I were with them, wouldn't you always stick right next to Odysseus? Because it seems like
Mhm.
this man, nothing bad specifically happens to him.
Yeah.
Things happen to everyone around him.
Yeah.
So like I would be right behind, like neck and neck with Odysseus the entire time. Cause they land at this island and like half the group is like, okay, we'll go out and scout first. Odysseus, your group hang out here, watch the ship, and they're like, okay, great. So that entire group, except one person, gets turned into pigs.
Mhm.
And the one person comes back and is like, listen, we just found this woman's house. I think she's a goddess. She turned everybody into pigs.
Yeah, she's very much like a kind of enchantress.
Mm-hmm.
Like a more of a, yeah, she's like a witch and she is portrayed as like bad, but I'm sure like in Cersei it goes like in the book it goes back to like she's not actually a bad person, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She like goes on this island to stay away from people and then they invade her island and like
Yeah.
try to attack her. But the whole turning men into pigs thing reminds me, I don't know if you've seen it, but you know, in like Spirited Away, have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
her parents are like being greedy and eating all the food and then turn into pigs, that terrified me as a child.
Me
So
too.
so
I had
every
nightmares about
time,
it.
yeah, so whenever I like read this scene or remember it, it always makes me think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had nightmares about that as a kid for way too long because I saw it way too young. So Odysseus is like, okay, I guess I'm gonna go save everyone. And like the guy who came back was like, no, don't even bother. Let's run for our lives. Like they're gone. They're dead, basically. And Odysseus is like, listen, I got this. I'll just go and I'm gonna go talk to her. It'll be fine. So as he's walking up there, Hermes literally is like, my guy, what are you like? What are you doing? All right, you're really set on this. Okay, fine. Let me give you this potion. You drink this, and her spells aren't gonna work on you. And then you need to make sure, though, like my favorite thing though is that his logic most of the time seems to be coming from the gods telling him exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, here's what you gotta do. Just tell her that if she promises that she will turn everyone back, you will sleep with her. And Odysseus like, all right, man, I'm sold. That sounds great. Because as we said it before, he is sleeping his way through the goddesses.
Yeah.
So Cersei is like tries to drug him, it doesn't work. And then she's like, okay, like you just sleep with me and it'll be fine. We'll like figure it out in the morning. And Odysseus like, no, you need to swear to me that if I sleep with you tonight, I'll get all my men back tomorrow. And she's like, you got me. Okay, all right, fine. I'll swear on the river Styx, and I'll turn them back in the morning as long as we can go sleep together. Which, like, I don't know what kind of charm Odysseus seems to have,
Yeah.
but he is, like, apparently the hottest mortal, like, the most eligible man ever.
Yeah, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, like Cersei is so damn bad. Like this guy comes to her
Yeah.
island and she'll do anything to sleep with them. But then I'm like, she probably gets like men to the island a lot because like she turns them
Mhm.
into pigs, right?
Mhm.
So there must have just been something really special about him that made her
Yeah.
not want to do that.
Like, this man has to look like Jason Momoa at this point. Like,
Yeah.
that is my headcanon, because I don't know what charms Odysseus has, but he is, like, working his way through all the ladies. Like, everyone's like, yeah, sure, fine. All right, I'll do whatever you want. Let's just have this fun night. Like, he is the king of one night stands. Like, he's no longer
Yeah.
the king of Ithaca. Holy cow. So they sleep together. She turns everybody back, and everyone feasts at her house for a full year. And they literally sleep together for a full year. And then she's like, all right, so what you have to do is now you have to go to the underworld, talk to a prophet, and he's going to tell you exactly how you need to get home. And he's like, okay, fine. So they just have their final night of sleeping together, and they decide to go to the underworld. And that's where we leave this reading.
Ooh, cliffhanger.
Ooh.
But yeah, this was a really jam-packed section. I
Mm-hmm.
had two of my favorite parts in it. The bit with the Cyclops and then Cersei. So
Mm-hmm. Listen, I love Cersei. I can't wait to see more Cersei, but I also love Hades and Persephone. Like, sure, I do love Lower Olympus as much as the next person, but also I really like Hades and Persephone retellings, and so I'm very excited for some good OG Hades and Persephone.
yeah.
I'm very excited to see them. I hope we get some good literature about them. Fingers crossed. If not, I will need more myth in the future recommendations about them, because I love them. And it might just be the fact that, like, Lore Olympus has convinced me that Hades is a soft boy, even though I know he's not, and he is very much, like, open to casting out mortals like the other
Yeah.
gods. But, like, I want to imagine him as, like, a good golden retriever boy. You know what I mean?
I definitely imagine him as like the Hades from Hercules, the Disney
Mm,
one. That's how I imagine him.
that's fair. That's fair. Did you have you read Lore Olympus yet?
No, not yet.
Oh my goodness. It's a comic book on Webtoons,
Okay.
and it's constantly updated. There is actually a physical book of it, but it's like a web comic,
Hmm.
and it is really really good. Like, you can probably binge it and catch up in a day at
Oh,
this point.
okay.
Yeah. So just I'll send you the link
Yeah,
after
do
this,
for sure.
because and this is my big shout out to listeners. If you have not read Lore Olympus yet, now is the time, because it is very good. And Hot Topic has Lore Olympus merch now. I saw. Like,
Mm.
I don't really know that much about the author. I know that their name is Rachel, because I just remember that because it's my name. But I love the art style, and I love Lore Olympus, and I'm just very excited to see where it goes. And it's getting juicier and juicier. So, but for listeners who want to watch it, the author does put trigger warnings above the episodes. Please research the trigger warnings before actually reading it, just in case there's anything that might be triggering to you. Please research those before you actually dive into it, because there are quite a few. But it is very good. That's all. That's my, like, little hype moment for Lore Olympus. But I am very excited for the rest of these chapters, and I can't wait to discuss them with you next week.
Yeah, I'm excited. So,
Yeah.
happy reading if you happen to be reading along with us
Mhm.
as you listen to these episodes. And
Yeah.
I will talk to you next week.
Yeah. I'll talk to you guys next
All
week.
right.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. Once again, just thank you everybody who stuck with this podcast for the last year. I really couldn't do it without you all, and I just really appreciate everybody that's taken the time to listen. If you want to help support this show, please consider leaving a review over on Apple Podcasts or honestly wherever you find that you can leave reviews. It helps a lot. And, share us with a friend and just go make someone listen to the podcast. It helps us grow. And I think people respect their friends a lot more than, advertisements on Instagram and such. So refer it to a friend and make them listen, and then you guys can talk about it together. I don't know. That's usually what I do with my friends, is I kind of force them to listen to things I enjoy, and then we talk about it. But I hope you guys are having a great day. Our logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah, and our theme song was created by Raphael Crux on freepd.com. But I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye!